adjustments to the agenda?
Only one item that I think I put on, which was from Ms. Chapman here, the administration dinner that she had emailed about. Failed to make it onto the agenda, and it can either be discussed with her under public comment, or we can put it as a new business agenda item at the desire of the board.
Public comment comes first.
Sure. Fire away.
So we'll handle the public comment. That's the only item that I heard about recently that came up.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 13th, September 25th, and September 26th.
Second.
And there's just one spelling correction. It's Marnie Rosner, R-O-S.
So I'll trade you my copy for yours to get it right.
And Mike Pop has misspelled
Yeah.
without it.
And which minutes is that, Joe?
That's the 13th.
13th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The big meeting.
okay.
It's moved and approved. I moved and seconded to approve the minutes of 13th, 25th, and 26th of September. We are again on the 27th of September. One through? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. So are we going to take comment on the non-agenda?
Just, yeah, we can take, we'll put her on that and then regular any comments.
Anybody?
Are you ready to approach?
Oh, sorry. Obviously not.
Put the screen down.
Sorry. So the community, or members of the community, would like to do an appreciation dinner for town management, select board, whatever exists of town management right now. And would like to know how we can best go about doing that. The idea was to get a bunch of pizzas from Buzzy's and some salads, and there are community members that have volunteered to do desserts and drinks, and then get them to you guys. And it would be nice if it brought some new faces in here somehow at the same time. So the thought was that maybe we could do it right before the meeting. I don't imagine like 50 to 100 people are going to show up to this thing, so I think that we would have the space. And the only issue that we have is the small quorum here. So like we'd have to keep you guys in separate corners, I guess, or you couldn't talk town business, or.
Well, I mean, no, right, and if we're not speaking to one another about town business, right?
Okay.
Obviously, we don't shun one another on the street or anything, so.
Really? Because that's what I had pictured in my head. So.
No, that's no, yeah. That would be difficult.
So is that something that you would all be open
It's very
to?
kind
And
of you folks to think of us that way. It's, we certainly appreciate the
I'm-
thought,
Sounds nice.
and it sounds great.
fairly certain you're probably underpaid and overworked and deserving.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sure there's some who wouldn't agree with that, but.
It's okay, that's the essence of.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for those of us that do, we would like to do this for you. Is that something I can arrange through you, Chip?
So
Or?
the next regular meeting is October 11th, Wednesday. There is, again, for those who have what I refer to as real jobs, where 5:30 is as early as one can get here because they gotta work at 5, they gotta move to get here, that we could open a meeting at 5:30 and then recess for dinner. And then reconvene the meeting.
Sure,
And then it's all warned,
right.
you're all together, and you're not taking action even if you are talking town business, you're just in a recess. Okay, so that I think would be public and transparent, that would be on the agenda as what we plan to
I
do.
can't believe he's eating a piece of pizza like that.
No, how many he's eating.
We're gonna take notes on the desserts.
Yeah,
You know?
Is it going to be filmed?
The rum cakes and the scorpion bowls will have to wait.
Always started live
I
at
can
the gym.
arrange it by Wednesday, October the 11th, if
That's
that
2
works
weeks.
for.
And in the event in this world where we must make sure we are clear, anything that is potential allergies needs to be labeled as such, so we're not necessarily killing anybody accidentally. Okay.
We can make that happen.
And I would say, Laura, if for any reason on your end, if the 25th is better than the 11th, I think either one of
That's
those
fine.
are probably fine.
Yeah, that's
So,
fine.
I can put it out there and get back to you within a few days to let you know which one is ideal, but I'm pretty sure we can, there's enthusiasm for it, so I think we can pull it off in 2 weeks.
I only need to know on Monday noon before Wednesday,
so that it's warned.
so
Excellent.
that I can warn it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all
And
right.
now we will know whether we come hungry or just come hungry or.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you. All
Thank you.
It's very nice.
right.
Any other?
All right, any other comment or
Good idea.
non-agenda issues?
You want to be a part of it?
All right, we'll move on to new business. Town recommendations from the town agent recommendation from the JPs.
What I can tell you is the JPs communicated via email to the chair with recommendations and none came forthwith. And so there are no recommendations to be offered this evening from the JPs and they will continue their discussions.
So, wait, you asked them for recommendations and they didn't come to us?
They
Okay.
tried to come up with some.
Yeah.
The one person they thought of actually just said, I'm too busy to do this.
Yeah.
Another name popped up today, but without that person actually being a party to it, that would be like appointing a select board member not present to attend something.
We
Been there, done that.
we do that when we have a forum, but there's only two of us.
Yes, of course. Anybody interested in becoming the town agent?
Public
No?
comment-
All
Public
right.
comment was made enough.
Not at this time.
All right, well, we'll
So that's out.
table that pending further action.
Okay.
Town building security memo.
Yep, so in your packets on the table should be next, from Tom Goddard, the chief. We began to look into security issues. We have experienced as of late person or persons entering town hall after hours, and actually seeing things that have been moved around on desks and computers that have been turned on. Either they have a key, or the door has been left open after a meeting with any commissioners or meters, the DRB, Planning Commission, anybody. When they leave, if you don't actually slam that door,
Right.
it does not latch.
Right.
So last person out's critical. So we talked about, and it's been mentioned before, since we've had a vehicle stolen at the wastewater plant, that each of our facilities begin to think seriously about having either direct alarm systems or camera monitoring that stores 72 or more hours of video. So that then it can be looked at. The pricing was looked at. I talked with Tom quite extensively about what my experience has been with Countryside Lock and Alarm out of Mount Holly. They are the predominant player, reasonable prices, constant maintenance. They are the leader, if you will, in the local area of providing this service. And those prices are there. None of this is within our budget scope, our capital scope. And so therefore, if we wanted to take action, we'd have to decide where we might want to take it out of, if it's capital improvements or building improvements or some area. I wanted you to be aware of this and aware of the situation so that at some future meeting, you may want to choose the area of most concern and address it and know that all of these are concerns. We did talk during the possibly relocating the recycling containers back down in front of the fire station, of having cameras view that area if we were going to locate them there. In the event we start getting refuse dropped there instead of recyclables. So that kind of thought goes into this in terms of a plan. But you can see that these items initially installed have a cost and then annually can run anywhere from $100 to $350 for them to simply
For
monitor
monitoring.
24/7, 365. So it is really inexpensive.
So we're looking at about 16 for four.
16,084
Round it up.
is
Yeah,
what.
384.
You got three.
Oh, I don't trust my math. Okay.
16, just, yeah,
On the
16,
fly.
just over 16,000 bucks.
Yeah, and so some of this stuff we're talking about is motion sensors and whatnot. So depending upon given building, sometimes you want motion sensors, sometimes you don't.
Right.
I have experienced motion sensors in which the bats who come out at night call for the manager to leave home.
Right.
We don't want that.
Dear
So this is really an FYI for you to look at and think about in terms of what we've experienced recently and what we now seem to be experiencing.
So,
I can do Mea Culpa if you want.
you can, what?
Mea Culpa, Mea Culpa.
Uh-oh, you
I
turned
have
some
a key.
computers off?
We did use, after the Conservation Commission meeting or during, we did use this and we didn't know how to turn it off exactly. I come in and use the Xerox to Xerox, you know, stuff
Yeah.
for meetings. I also come in at off times to get brochures from the storage for the Beatrice Aiken mailbox, trail guide.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether those are some of the disruptions you might have noticed, but I
Answer
just thought I would
that.
say.
Plainly, we'll find out the truth when you're on camera.
Can you freely stand up and turn sideways?
Hold this number.
Chip, just
Just
remind me
FYI
again, the
also.
number on, was that a monthly, about $350?
No, annual,
Annual, okay.
annual.
Yeah.
Is that like one of the new live watches, the new adult?
No, this is through telephone connections and dialers that'll dial off to Mount Holly where there's 24-hour coverage. Then they have a PEC list, who to call first, who to call second, who to call third, until they get someone to answer a phone. And it doesn't matter what it is, they will dog it until they get someone to respond to it. So, like I said, I was third on the line for the Rockingham Free Public Library, and so I knew that the first two didn't answer when I got the phone call at 2 a.m. for a motion sensor in the basement. It's the bat. It comes out, it flies by, it goes off. Please reset it. Well, that's not what the other two tell us. The other two live next door. They'll go over and reset it. So there's conditions that they track that stuff and they want logical answers and people that will respond. So it's a high quality service, and when there is issues, they are right on top of getting it repaired. They do complete smoke alarm, fire alarm, security alarms, windows, doors, and they on top of that can do video. And video can be done nowadays such that, for example, Tom Goddard on his iPhone can log in and look at every camera without even leaving the home. The one area that we don't, I think there's one area we don't have internet access at that we would have to add in order for security to be added there, and that's the pool. Because the pool does not have internet access right there. But the school does.
School does, I was gonna say, work out
What's that?
the old.
There's a
School has a
phone.
phone line.
Yeah, so you can get DSL.
Yeah.
Might be.
But, and it might be,
But it,
Oh.
you know, it's-
again, because of proximity to the school, it might be tag in with the school internet system. You know, because wireless is right over the bank.
Yeah.
But again, the major thing is this is something that hasn't been addressed anywhere except the town guards at this point. And it will benefit us from the standpoint of VLCT for us to be able to say we now have intrusion protection systems and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, they're all good
Some
things.
discount as a result of that,
Totally.
or at least they look at us with good favor.
With good favor, that you're taking progressive steps, if you will, towards remedies.
Well, I'm curious with that, at the wastewater treatment facility, there currently is no fire alarm system there?
There is.
Oh,
There is, but there's not a security system, not a door intrusion.
Oh, I see.
Not a camera system.
okay, because they included the fire alarm installation here in this price.
Probably when you put in a system that probably,
You remove
Put in
the
the whole
20-year-old
system,
and
yeah.
replace it with a combination system.
Gotcha, okay.
it very well may be that we have an alarm system whose panel is not compatible for dialing. So you replace the panel, and therefore you probably end up replacing all the receptors to make it an integrated system.
Right.
So,
I mean, I guess we would hopefully begin with the individual locations. I mean, that, and, you know, Tom would work this into his budget presentation. We can work it in the sewer and wastewater, because that's our matter.
Your budget, yeah.
The town hall, obviously, the library will have to work it into their budget.
They have somewhat of a system now, but not the top.
And the pool, that's sort of, you know, it's a number of different sort of jurisdictions, but ultimately it's
Ours.
jurisdiction. But again, you know, just, I mean, I realize that it's not a huge number, but is it, how high a priority is it to?
All of these is the question.
Yeah.
What's our highest priority?
I think that, you know,
Oh, sure.
stating the
No, no,
obvious,
you're right.
the pool is, you know, yeah, I mean, vandalism and graffiti and so on and so forth, so.
And the access that I know has happened at the pool has been by someone holding a key.
I hate to say it, but
You've ever
there's,
seen to the pool?
there are probably so many keys out there, you know.
Yeah.
Which
I
begs,
mean,
you know, getting on
We're
to
talking.
how many,
Can we help
unknown
ourselves by
keys
changing
are
the
out
locks?
there.
Right.
Yeah,
Can we
you know,
simply-
starting with that.
administer?
Or a keypad lock system, I mean.
Yes,
I've already forgotten what it is into the firehouse.
yes.
I tattooed on my hand or something, but I can't recall it for the life of me. But,
So this was
yeah,
really
maybe
just
an option.
to start that discussion. This was put together by Tom at my request. And again, comparative, Countryside Lock and Alarm simply does it all. In a very affordable and professional way. I do,
I mean, if we were to do this as a package, we'd have to put it out to bid, wouldn't we? I mean, it's over 5,000, so.
if you did it all at
Right,
once.
exactly.
So that's why I'm saying, I think we need, you want to prioritize. We know it's coming out of different budgets.
Yeah,
And so then, you know, determining where our weakest points are and making sure they're covered. This may dovetail into what's down under town manager's report for the town hall itself as an area that will, this will surface again.
yeah.
Okay, so that's really an FYI, we don't have to take any action, but I wanted you to be able to recognize that it's unfortunately one of the things that's required at this day and age. Old buildings remain old buildings, but they are still of interest to the wrong people.
All right.
Okay?
Anyone want to add to that? Water protection plan document.
So, for those of you who got a 16 megabyte email, this is it. And this, unfortunately, because our copier is exactly two colors, black and white, this document requires signature of the operator, which will be Chris from Simon's Operations, and myself as the municipal manager.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Chris Hayes and Chip Stearns as the signatories, once we've reviewed it.
Second?
Perfect. This is due September 30th.
So we can think it over.
It was drafted by a representative of the state of Vermont under contract with the town to write this source protection program. Very interesting reading to find out your source of water and its capacities and where it's starting, and that it is right inside and outside of the conservation districts.
And we've had a version of this in the, it's
Every
just an
5 years.
updated version, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every
that's what I
5
thought.
years,
Yeah,
and then it must be reviewed annually
yeah,
to see if there's any significant changes.
changes, yeah.
Okay, so I sent it to you in email. I only printed one copy in case one of you really desires to walk out the door with a copy.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to authorize Chris Hayes and Chip Stearns, town manager, to act as signatories on documents relating to the water protection plan by September 30th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have a highway grant in aid project.
So this was, again, in your packet, should be 3 different sets of information, 3 pages. A cover letter and 2 grant project summary reports. This was applied for when Cynthia was here. We met September 18th with Amy from Wyndham Regional. And Brian went out and showed the sites, and they picked these 2 particular projects, which we are hoping to actually get done before snow flies. One's Hilo Biddy, where we know there's a washout, and the other one is Tavern Hill. So the basic requirements, we have to do 100 meters of road surface, road ditching, and mitigation relative to waters entering streams which enter the rivers. These were the sites picked. It's an 80-20 grant. The 20 will be in kind, highway, men, equipment, and materials, which we would already be paying for to do a project anyway. And any material bought can be covered by this grant as well.
So that's actually Mill Street, not Hilo Biddy, down there, that segment.
A piece of it. A piece of it. No,
It's
this
just a little bit of both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the part that goes down to the brook then?
That's
Down in
what,
process.
Right, okay.
basically you go down Hilo Biddy until there's a turnaround, and then from there it becomes a class 4, which they're labeling as Mill Street, class 4 road off Hilo Biddy, which
Yeah.
I would have called it Hilo Biddy down to the bridge, but I don't
Is
know.
there a map?
There's an aerial photograph.
Area photograph that's in black and white.
Because it's the pedestrian walkway that the kids used to get to school, it's totally a ditch.
Right, no, that's what we're talking
A
about.
ravine, actually.
Yeah.
It's totally gouged out.
Yeah, I
Yes.
would call it Hilo Biddy too, but as long as you have it
Yeah,
marked on the map right.
As long as it gets
It matters.
repaired.
Yeah,
I don't
as long
care
as
what
it
you
gets repaired.
Yeah. So,
good.
so the event, that's what the grant project is intending to be used for, these 2 projects. And Brian hopes to get to them before the snow flies. So, yeah.
Now, some of this has been done on Tavern Hill,
Yes.
so that it can be retroactive?
The new work is covered, but like I said, some on Tavern Hill, but realize 100 meters
Is
wasn't
not a lot.
done.
Yeah,
And so what they're going to do is pick up some of that sections that were,
okay,
and connect the 2 areas that were done
yeah,
with 100 meters between them that wasn't done.
yeah,
And that's what they're trying to do is again, mitigation.
okay. So that's the section.
So when this
See where
letter
the-
first
I
came
was
in,
gonna say,
it happened to
keep you
say
out of
Town of
your
Rockingham on it, so I had to have it corrected.
It's below my driveway.
That's okay, yeah.
Is that where the Tavern Hill is sort of being undercut by the stream taking out the toe of the slope there? It seems just to,
No, I
Yeah,
don't,
it's
all the
something
way
else.
at the bottom, you mean? It doesn't look like it goes down
Doesn't
that
look
far. I think it's probably mostly a result, in the spring, we had a big wash that affected the uphill side. If you're going up Tavern Hill, the left-hand side, that tore out a culvert and washed a bunch of stuff down through there. So I'm guessing
on
that's
the other side, okay.
mostly what they're looking at. And they've done a bunch of work with the excavator,
Ditching.
creating ditches and berms and so on. So I'm not sure exactly what more they would be doing, but I think that's what it's focused on.
Yeah.
There's a big area on the one side where it's really removing a lot of trees and a lot if you wanted to level it, so I don't know whether they're
Yeah.
thinking that, but.
And this grant
Sheet flow,
cannot
possible
work in
and not
live
technical
stream.
clearance, right.
These have to be intermittent stream, not live stream. So if they required a permit from A&R, then the project wouldn't qualify for this grant.
Well,
Because we have plenty that apparently, where there's live water, we need to do work.
But
And
can't
this
do it.
grant doesn't do that, okay? So you're aware of what that project is that
Yeah.
is going on.
I have one other question. There was also, when Cynthia was here, she and Brian got together and secured a $20,000 grant from the state to work on Sand Hill Road, the problem of erosion
Yeah.
on the steep hill that keeps making it a one-way. and it goes into the wetland, all the eroded materials. go out to the wetland.
That's already been, a grant for that has already been approved and it's
Okay,
already
so-
on the schedule. That also is hoping to be
Before
done
snow.
before snow flies, so, to create a settling pond and all,
Exactly.
the whole thing. We got a grant for all of that, so
Yeah.
Perfect, that's
that's already
wonderful.
in the works.
So if it snows early, just,
Doesn't seem likely to do.
Early enough.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Ooh, I don't know.
So tomorrow it was surprising.
Yet to have one winter without it.
1980 we had one winter.
That's-
First snow was April 30.
That was, well,
I almost
it
put the
was pretty
ski
darn, it
team.
was,
That was an odd year. I remember that.
actually, 1973, 74 too.
Okay.
So,
So
next item.
no action on that?
No action,
All right,
just,
so
it's
we're
informational, so,
Meeting with town school board concerning school forest situation. All right.
so there is but one board member here, so we don't have a quorum to meet with you. I'm recognizing you missed the quite extensive meeting from yesterday, Scott. The result of that being that the members that were present approved this document, which you can send it across there, which was the purchase sale contract, to be signed after the duly warned meeting. Did you get one of those already, Karen?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
So, one of the things noticed already as of this morning, the date of October 26th can't be met, so this will have to be modified at any rate.
To November 2nd is the current date that they're shooting for.
Okay, I indicated the first or second, but the second would be a Thursday, and they only met on Thursdays, so,
That's what Alice told me.
okay. So for Scott's position, this is, the main intention here is to turn over that 164 acres of forest to the town, so that if the unification vote is in the affirmative, that the property doesn't disappear into the unification school district.
And
Now-
even though, I mean, one of the topics of discussion surrounding that was the fact that even once this vote takes place, there's a 30-day waiting period within which somebody could, exactly, so, but we all agreed, in fact, Frank Rucker felt confident that
Frank Ritter is,
the business manager for.
okay, oh, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, that if it was in an ongoing legal proceeding, that would sort of remove it from the equation, and/or he felt confident that the other members of any new board that was formed would be.
Now, if the vote is, on merger is negative, what are?
We would,
Still move forward.
we would probably go forward because
Right, because
that as of July 2019, the state's gonna do what the state's gonna do
Right.
regardless of
Regardless
what
of-
we do and what the vote happens, because
You shall merge.
I mean, it's, so, the idea is that we'll keep this moving regardless.
Correct.
If it's done by November 7th, great, and then if it's a positive vote, then it's a non-issue. Otherwise, it'll be done, and it gives, you can see, it's up to 2 years
Right,
to turn it over. And the reason the 2 years was picked is because legally, the Putney Town School District Board stays not intact, but continues to have legal ability to manage things for up to a period of 2 years.
Any
So,
unfinished
legal
business.
Tie
business.
up loose ends.
Yeah.
And the board intends to go through this process no matter what, because we realize this could also protect it from future boards. So we
right, yeah.
want the forest to be in a nonprofit no matter what.
Which is, the Conservation Commission would like to make a couple comments. First of all, I've got a copy of our minutes from January 9th, 2017.
When you were here.
Our Conservation Commission
Oh, okay.
minutes, and
Yeah.
then we brought these issues up to the townwide meeting that was held by the school
Yes,
board,
yeah.
where there were a number of comments. So I wanted to give everyone a copy of that because we felt this section here, it says consistent with current management practices, which may cover it well enough. And the Putney Central School Forest mission statement of 5/25/17, which we don't have a copy of, but which I would love to have a copy of.
Will be made
The-
available here.
The
Yeah.
mission statement, which was discussed at that community-wide meeting, left out the fact that a lot of people wanted this land maintained as public access.
This is not the mission statement. We're not talking about the mission statement that was proposed for the nonprofit. This is a mission statement that that lives in the document of the school forest paperwork as it exists now.
Is it
Basically,
what is posted on the kiosk entering the Putney Central School Forest?
It may be.
Yeah, that's the one that we commented on, and it really indicates that the school forest is for the school. There's no indication, people have actually asked me, may I walk here? Not realizing that it's also open to the public as far as general practice is concerned.
right.
So I would like, I think a copy of that mission statement, since it's referenced in this legal document, should be part of the discussion. And the only other issue in terms of, so I think it's sort of a no-brainer that we would like to continue public access to this land. The second thing is the Planning Commission is in heavily working on the new river corridor regulations and flood regulations. And I also wanted to pass out from the town plan, which you approved lately, that there are the town is supposed to work toward maintaining upland forests which mitigate flood hazard. And the Putney Central School Forest clearly does that. It's a big service to the village center.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I just maintaining the upland portions of the school forest as forest. I don't know whether that's already in the mission statement.
That is, yeah, I mean, it's, the whole intention of this and in how because we did sort of shift the wording on this yesterday for exactly this reason, was that it would be maintained at least for this 2-year period as it has been maintained. That's the intent of this statement. So beyond that 2 years, it would be up to that nonprofit that was formed to come up with a new mission statement that was basically as it states, formed by members of the Putney Town School Board to ensure proper use and conservation with input from the select board and community.
Input is, I would sort of like the select board to be able to have a say if they're conveying the land back, and the more clarity we have right now, I think the better. I think these are probably, like I say, 2 no-brainers, that it should be maintained as forest, which gives you a lot of flexibility.
Right.
I mean, you can log in a forest and still have a forest.
That's all in that plan.
Kind of thing.
That's all already in that plan, so.
And depending on, that mission statement may not be up. I don't know what's posted up there. I haven't read it recently, but unless it's gone up in the last, in recent months, it probably is not
It
that
was,
one.
maybe it's just, I didn't notice it until recently.
It will definitely make it
But I was
available.
definitely wanting, since it is a part of a legal document and it's referenced, I think it should
It'll be here.
be here.
It'll be available.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna pass these out anyway, since I make copies. So this is the town plan in relation to flooding, which is, that's pretty key. And obviously the Wilson wetland helps a lot. And then Ellen, who's here, is the creator of our minutes. Thank you. You're welcome. With input is, in a legal sense, not a
No.
lot, not, you know, not-
Minimal, yeah, no.
Minimal, I should say.
I mean, you know, the intent is really to let it continue to be managed by the
the school.
people who have been managing it. So,
Right.
you know, it's not, it wouldn't be our intention to dramatically change that, I don't think.
No,
Right.
You know,
I don't
I mean,
think
there's
so.
a
I don't
whole lot of
think so.
people have done a whole lot of work to make it what it is, and we want to keep it that way, so.
Absolutely, and the after-school forest program, which is part of the school board, as you know, all the kids making the trails there has been an exceptional piece of work. And then Lynn Borowski has done some really good fundraising with the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps to get some really more professional bridges and so on in there that are safer. So that, you know, I just assume that's all going to be ongoing. I just think, just because this will go long into the future, a few key points should be made. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you.
And thanks, I know you guys have been meeting endlessly about this, and I sort of come in at the last minute again.
Yes. Well, it's the usual, you know, hurry up and wait and wait and wait, and then hurry up. So we suddenly have to, I mean, the time's running out, we gotta deal with it.
Gotcha.
But I think
That's how things get done.
generally speaking, we're all on the same page, that
Yeah.
continued public access, you know, preservation of all of the wetland areas and forest areas, and continued access for educational purposes and for the public use as well.
So that will be a mission statement, which I would really like to take a look at. since
See a
it's not-
copy of it.
not
Yeah.
really here.
Okay. Well, that is the end of new business, apparently. Anything else you want to add about? Okay. Anything on the old business that we feel like addressing? These are all, yeah.
I actually have one quick thing to say about old business. Andrew Stein's class at Landmark that went out before and did research on the land that was donated to the town by Ned Hendricks. He's got another class out there again, so I just thought I'd let you know.
Good.
We'll know more.
Town manager's report. Interesting.
Few items.
All right.
Water meter readings are being taken, started 2 days ago. Should be done hopefully by tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Friday, I will be calculating, printing and mailing bills out. They will be due on or before October 31st. Should you receive a bill and have questions about it, I will be the one to have to answer those questions at this time. So expect they're going to be out in your mailbox early next week. Second item, restricting access to the second floor of Town Hall. There is within your packets a set of documents at the top of each page received. It says passive loss control report. Speaker.
I know. I looked at it before and just reshuffled the deck.
So really, items B and C kind of go together here.
Thank you.
These are
Thanks, Ed.
Okay.
These are done, were done by inspection back in June. Various items at Town Hall that require attention. Part of the situation is the second floor of this building, which we know already is not accessible. And so to try to mitigate hazards, one of the methods we can use that I've talked with Tom Goddard was that at the bottom of the stairs, we put up no admittance. And we literally say, this from here on is off limits. Okay? So that employees went in the building, public went in the building, shouldn't be up in those upper floors at all, in any of those areas. And those areas, you know, quite frankly, are a disaster. And certainly could be cleaned up, but they are not the highest priority of items to be taken care of. That would and should create an environment in which the handrails on the first two steps on either side don't need to be added if we're saying it's not going to be an accessible area. I don't believe in my lifetime that we will see an elevator go in and the second floor restored to its glorious days.
Naysayer, aren't you?
I am a practical.
Pragmatist.
So that would be one thing I would like to do with Chief Goddard, is to restrict access to the second floor.
And we don't do, would we put like chains or something?
We
Yeah,
just proper notice, a couple of pillars and a rope and a no admittance
yeah.
beyond this point kind of thing. There are other items on the second floor to be addressed
Yes.
that still need to be addressed, but basically saying this is not a public space.
That reduces the
That reduces our
insurance risk.
costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was accosted this morning about this by my wife, who is a member of the Historic Society. I store a good deal of material there,
Yes, sir.
and also material that is not room for in their office at the next stage, but they have had continued access to material when people request it or are looking to research it. So I'm just merely making us all aware of the concerns of the Historic Society.
And my guess would be that one could still access it essentially with,
Basically, we have to know you're there, we have to
Right.
know you're present, because in the event of emergency, there's no system to tell you you have a disaster and you need to get out. There is one way out.
Oh, no,
And if they're up
yeah.
there, all the doors that right now have padlocks on them, all must be open.
Right.
Unfettered access
right.
to egress. And that's not the condition.
There is actually a back door, but
I
that
bet there's a padlock.
questionable. I don't know whether that's locked from me. I don't know.
Yeah, so, and that's from the fire safety standpoint, from Chief Goddard, and then from these
Right.
issues that need to be addressed, so.
I'm merely the messenger on this
Yeah.
and saying, you know, I mean, there is gonna be a concern and consideration of a lot of material
Yes,
that's there.
and
associated
I
with
think
that
just
and
coordination,
access point.
again, like coming in at night,
Right,
we need to know you're gonna be in.
All right.
yeah.
Now, I don't think there's so much of that. I know that the office for visitors and research is open during the weekend, and usually one member of the Historic Society is in the office at the next stage, and, you know, has been accessing, you know.
Yeah, so
I mean,
it's-
it's, again, it's not.
Very limited.
something- It's limited, but it is an ongoing consideration,
So I would say, my suggestion would be that you work with Tom and/or Wade to come up with not necessarily a policy,
Right,
but
yeah,
a protocol
a
for,
protocol
Protocol.
for that use by that group. So that they aren't hindered in their process, but that it's clear what the requirements are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because right now, I mean, it's unfettered access in this entire building once the front door's open.
Right.
So, which is the next item down, town hall front door discussion, that I put on the agenda. If you look at the items, I want to say it is the top of, no. Wires, one of these, there it is. Third page printed, but second page on the front.
Open that. Yeah.
Location municipal office, main entrance doors. So an employee who came during one of our sweltering mornings unlocked the lock, and the door had swollen so much that they couldn't yank it open. And so therefore, even when they did get it open, then would the door close? Not that that's gonna happen necessarily in the winter, that the door is gonna swell. But those doors are not in any way, shape, or form ever going to seal tight.
No,
And,
and we, just so you know, we've had this conversation
yeah,
periodically for several
and
years.
so now this conversation is entered into by our insurance carrier. And that this particularly says the door on the right as an egress, which is used for fire egress, is not unlocked, is stuck, has cobwebs on it, has a chair in front of it. All of which kind of have a problem. So I think that in this case, one should really consider the front doors as a priority to be worked through, such that they get changed out so they are compliant for OSHA, VOSHA, and ADA.
Do we have any money left in our town hall?
You have money,
Bill.
15,000, I think,
In the
earmarked
town.
for town
Yeah.
repair.
And I can't remember whether we necessarily, I mean, we completed the carpet project was our biggest one
Yeah.
in that for this year, and I know maybe the door was the other thing. I can't remember whether we ever got a quote on this,
I don't
we
believe so.
did.
Right.
Um,
And I know that there's a large, again, interest in the historic perspective of looking at the front of town hall and those
Yeah.
doors. Anything can be built out of any material to look like something
Right.
at a cost. So that's why this, I think, now has risen to a level that our carriers said, you know, and that was in June.
Right.
So I think my discussions again with Tom just this morning, there is not a requirement based on the capacity of this building as it is used today for there to be double doors there. There can be a single 42-inch wide door to meet plan,
42 inch
42-inch wide.
for the size of this
For the
building.
occupancy,
For the occupancy.
of the space we're using.
So,
If we were to go back to using upstairs for
It
occupancy
would
with
have-
50 people,
right.
you have to have double doors.
Right.
So, I mean, there's ways of looking at that. Right now, the door on the right doesn't open.
yeah, I mean, if we were to put new doors in, I think putting in double doors would make sense with the
Yep.
intention of, you know,
Right.
that, then it's taken care of if we ever use that. Plus,
Yep.
you know, if they were functional, for example, you know,
Right.
metal or otherwise insulated doors that had the
Insulated
same
windows.
historic look as these,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't, you know, if we go changing it to a single door, there's gonna be an uproar about
Yeah.
what it
Right.
looks like.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I think we can achieve the
Secondly,
same.
yeah, we all gonna, the side lights,
right, or uninsulated glass.
uninsulated, those two can be changed out and remain red. And my suggestion would be that we actually take the lowest level of those and go up a foot on either side, and on, as from the outside, the one on the left, that's where we put a strong box for dropping of envelopes and mail.
Yeah.
Because right now, we have that in the door, and that is a damn good convenience.
Right.
So we can put a strong box on one side, and on the other side, just raise the windows so they match.
So that they're short.
And so.
Get that whole unit built as a unit, yeah, yeah.
Oh. So, I want this on the board's radar that there's now a party of interest looking at that and looking at the building in general. All of these items are for the municipal town hall. But one of the things I have a kind of a vested interest in, I like having my door open for the public while I'm here. And that's not gonna be possible if it's 32 degrees in the hallway.
It's only like 4 months out of the year.
It's only 4 months out of the
You
year.
haven't spent a winter in this building yet, have you? This is, we really like to encourage members of the public to come to help warm the room up first.
Yeah, I saw the ice road truckers drive by.
It's
And I,
definitely better than it was a
So-
dozen years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
way better.
well, you got the furnace.
All right, well, you know,
It's
furnace
all
and
insulated
and
and all
Right,
sorts of
I know.
things.
So, again, if the board would like, I certainly can, I did this recently in the Rockingham Town Hall, main entrance and side entrances. Went out to bid for that type of activity. And if the goal, if you want to make sure there's active participation in those who want to preserve the historic look and feel, then certainly we need to open that discussion with them. Because certainly you can order red vinyl, red metal
Right.
doors. Hopefully we could use the breakout bars that we already own, you know, repurpose them,
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
The side lights, you know, totally to me, just,
Get rid of
we
it.
got
Yeah.
plexiglass on one. It is not normal to have plexiglass that you stick your notices on your egress doors. You know, so that concept of how do we post our notices, I think that needs to change, so our notices are posted in here in the hallway, as most post, as opposed to a front door. And then more formal signs posting the hours outside as opposed to in windows. So looking at that as trying to, use the term enhance it, with
I
iWorQ.
doubt these doors date to the original construction of the
I
building.
certainly wouldn't
turn of the
think so.
century or,
No.
so they've been replaced at some point in,
And they weren't, well, it wasn't by you, huh?
no. A little before our
Early in
time.
your career.
Actually, I have a photograph of the town hall in 1956 with Lindley's grandparents standing in front of it.
Okay.
And it looks very much, I mean,
Same concept.
there was, and sorry, this was the library was here in the town.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if those doors were relatively new at
From
that time.
right?
Yeah.
Post-war or something
Yeah.
in that time frame.
I'm happy to, I'm working at Lisa Papazian's right now, so I have easy access to her. She's the head of the Historical Society, so,
And she may also be a good person to speak to about that access issue.
That's-
You know, the-
oh, upstairs, yeah, I can mention that to her too, but you'll want to be in touch. But I'd be happy to talk to her and spec doors for that, and then we could go out to bid for it.
Yeah. And
Because
we're
I
talking
can
doors
just,
and windows and,
a whole unit, I mean, that's the way to do that,
Yeah.
just to have it, get Therma-Tru or Simpson or somebody to make the whole thing, and
yeah.
then it's trouble-free and sealed and so on, hopefully, yeah.
With everything.
With proper installation.
It's different level there, I'm sure, so.
Yeah.
Level, yeah, they just have to be
Not
tweaked a
that
bit.
bad.
Was it, yeah, Miller or Budweiser?
Yeah.
They're still making shims.
So this kind of draws an attention from a third party to us.
And none of these rose apparently to VOSHA concern
no.
last time around? Is that just luck
And
of
then it's
luck
just
of the
luck,
draw? Yeah,
luck of the draw, but
because any one of those could be a VOSHA concern, I would think.
yes, and
So
and
Greg
so
Allen
you
mentioned that on
the thing,
TV.
yes, thank you. You know what a DeNozo is? Almost have to DeNozo on that. So all of these items, if they rise to a level of high, which a couple of these things do, we really, Tom and I are gonna try to work on getting the heights. I mean, some of them are simple, we need a cover on an outlet. I don't need an electrician to put a screw in to cover something, that's
You
not,
sure?
I don't. Doing a cosmetic. So, those are the types of things we're trying to cover. Down in the basement, again, no admittance on the top of the door.
Yeah.
It means the public's not supposed to go down there, and an employee going down there. It's still a risk, but, we've got an odd number of step, we've got a high step, and then we've got the sub pump that you can apparently fall into. If you can't stand up, you're looking down. So,
Yeah.
That's not a concern.
so these are and we have a set of these for the fire department, a set of these for the garage, a set of these for the wastewater plant, and a set of these for town hall. And all are being worked on, and a set for the library. So, and I, for the first time, as manager, went and visited the library yesterday for about 40 minutes. And they are, through Emily, who's gonna try to talk with me, are looking at the building being 15, 16 years old and trying now to talk about capital
Capital
budget.
plan.
Yeah. Roof, staining, carpet replacement, things like that. So, being proactive to try to set money aside. And there is some money here already set aside to begin to take things, but I think it's beginning the point where talk may be cheap and all of a sudden insurance is not going to be.
Yeah, sure.
So that was B and C. Then again, in your packets going on to D. One of those things, one of those times where caller ID would have been nice. iWorQ is a software package, web-based, accessible by cell phone, accessible by computer, by iPad, by anything, it's through the internet, in which the public can notify the town of concerns they think need to be addressed. This is wonderful and great in an environment in which you've got fleets of highway, water, wastewater, administration teams in which people are assigned duties and electronically tracked and punch in, punch out, order materials and all that jazz. Great sales pitch. My recommendation to the board is we're not interested in any of this. This individual wanted me to present it to you. I'm presenting to you his proposal. It is only $3,000, but then annually there's a $2,000 fee to keep it going.
2,000.
So,
Oh, right there.
I am not,
2,500.
people pick up the phone and they call us. We're a small community, we are not a major city. We address things based upon priority and based upon whether or not it's an emergency of public safety, employee safety, as we should.
No,
So-
this is blatantly something for a large municipality.
And so, that would be the consensus of the board, thank you very much. Nothing different than what I told
And
them already.
thank you to this fellow's, presentation.
All
What's
right.
it? Information. Financial report.
Okay, in front of you is the financials again. You will find in order, Fund 100, 101, 402, 408, that's general fund, highway fund, water, sewer. And the balance sheet is first, and then the budget status summarized to header accounts, so it's minimized in terms of the amount of detail. Again, we are 25% through the year, and yet we have some costs that are at 50% already. Those are the ones we know about. Water sewer billing, when you're looking at the revenue stream, there is no revenue in this year because we bill quarterly and we're about to have our first bill. That's for water sewer. Nothing elaborate stands out in this. And so you can compare these to the last set you got. If you have questions, certainly email, call, whatever you would like, I'll look into for you. But I'm not scared of any of this at the moment. Go ahead.
Cemetery, why not, that just jumped out at me because we've spent 100% of it. What?
That's a transfer?
Okay, so it's not,
It's a transfer
to the cemetery.
to the cemetery
Okay.
commission, yes. So you're gonna find many. We just barely booked, for example,
Library, same thing.
the
Yeah.
Ewald money coming to us.
Yeah.
The water, wastewater 6,000 coming to us, the general fund 45,000 going to sewer. So all of those activities have been booked. The library's been booked for getting their cross-fund activity for their operating. There is a slight little snafu that I guess nobody recognized. The library budget calls for 140,000 to go to the library, and the town budget called for 139,900. A difference of about $1,252 between what they budgeted to get from you and what the town prepared in their budget. I have only transferred the 139 at this point in time.
And have you notified them?
I did, I notified Emily, and so we may, in the future, move the extra 1,252 from the general fund to the library. We may not.
If they can save it.
If they can save it, yeah, I mean, like every place, everybody's conserving all they can as often as they can, except, you guys with the general fund.
And
What's that?
how's that occurred?
Well, if you go into the town report and look, the numbers are presented, and they are presented, and they're not equal. In your last town report, yes.
Laura.
First place I went.
We are only human.
It's part of budgeting, if two different boards are gonna budget together.
Yeah, no,
The boards need to make sure their numbers match. One of the, that leads to the next subject, which you should have, you don't have, because I have them all here. I'm passing this out. This is an exercise in what is referred to as, there should be four of them. An exercise in what has been past practice and is really not needed in the accounting world.
I'm sure that is.
One of those.
Yep.
Oh, maybe I don't have one for you, I'll get you one. It's really terrible. You can see it there.
Yeah.
This is the cash accounts,
I'm sorry, the what?
cash accounts,
Oh, okay.
actual cash accounts. the People's United Bank accounts and then a single account at Citizens Bank. And every account that you see that has an asterisk next to it, I would like to have closed into the general fund sweep account for the following reasons. When we perform activities, what was the title, Mr. Rogers?
That's my daughter.
So all the ones that I put an asterisk next to, I would like to close into the general fund sweep account. Because every time that we issue checks, we may or may not have to move money from one of these other accounts into the general fund to reimburse it.
Right.
And with the accounting system, we can actually track how much money in the general fund belongs to these other funds. And when you're looking at the interest rate, the highest interest rate is in our managed balanced account. So in fact, we're choosing to not make the maximum that we have available. Just where this comes from is when the public or the board or even the treasurer says, we're going to establish a fund.
Right.
And fund gets interpreted to mean bank account. And it's not required to be a bank account. And so as we look at these various accounts, the board may sign a warrant, for example, from White Whitney. And that's part of this citizen bank account at the bottom, specifically the part where you see account number 600-002-0000, that's at minus $1,000. White Whitney ran out of cash. And we continued to write checks because the citizen account had money in it. So the report of what was available wasn't always accessed. That's not to say there's not money available, but the last check that we wrote for White Whitney, I wrote directly out of the general fund checkbook because I needed to already reimburse the checkbook anyway. So this is a question of the board and whether they want to take a suggested motion from me to instruct the assistant treasurer to work with the finance director to consolidate banking accounts.
So moved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I second.
Thank you for the comment.
Why would we not want to do that?
Well,
And maybe
because
Karen
the
wants to weigh
assistant
in on
treasurer
this.
presently is acting on behalf of a treasurer who is absent, who is responsible for deposit accounts. It is not required that they follow any instruction from anyone. They are a separate elected official. But the traditional responsibility of the board and the decisions you have made to create a finance directive and to try to give guidance in better accounting practices would suggest that this action, which should have been taking place years ago, requires the board to acknowledge that they want it to take place. And so by the board openly making a motion saying, we need to consolidate our accounts, it's been explained to you and given to you as numbers, it clearly makes sense. We need to report financially from a financial system, not from a banking system.
So I'm just wondering, I mean, why would Cynthia not have done this? Is that because she didn't have,
The meeting of the 13th was a clear example.
okay, so it just hasn't been done because it hasn't been
I'm not fighting that battle.
convenient.
Didn't
Yeah,
get to it.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not fighting
okay.
that battle. you
Yeah.
know. You've alluded to situations in the past. It appears different in my eyes, and I literally can come in with the paperwork and say, this is, the board wishes to do this. I, as finance director, say it's the right thing to do. Please sign these documents so that I can close these accounts. The ones I'm leaving open are left open intentionally. The VDCP grant account has 25 cents in it. That's where grant money flows in and out, and it has to be
So
non-interest
you want
bearing.
it to be an account.
Right.
Yeah.
And the HRA is the medical account that the employees draw from.
Yeah.
But all the others all can be managed through our managed balance account and through our accounting system. We already have money in the general fund checkbook. All of the water sewer money's in the general fund checkbook. We don't have a water and sewer checking account.
Right.
You used to.
But it's separated out in the general fund, it's just.
It's reportable in
So
the financials.
these would
but-
all remain as, how would these show up in the general fund? Would they just be general fund dollars, or would they be broken out at all?
They're broken out in the various funds that they exist. For example, the records restoration, you have 47,000 there, but there's $83,000 in record restoration money. The rest of that money's already in the general fund checkbook.
So why?
Because they set up an account years ago, and we started depositing our money directly into the general fund instead of breaking and going to the bank with 10 deposit slips there. So we've already begun the practice, we just haven't closed accounts.
No, the only one that I wonder about, and I don't remember any resolution to this, was the cemetery fund. Remember, there was discussion as to whether, there were gifts when we inherited particularly
Not pleasant.
Mount Pleasant.
Yep.
There was a chunk of money that came with it. There was an account that came with it. I
Yep.
can't
Right.
remember how much that was. And there were supposedly designated funds within that account, but there was no record of the designated funds.
So the methodology, again, from a financial standpoint, is those funds can be in the general fund checkbook, and within the cemetery fund itself, a fund balance
You can break.
designation
Okay,
that says held for XYZ purpose.
right, okay.
It's committed, reserved, assigned, whatever.
But it lives in.
But in terms of cash flow, right, within the warrants tonight is cemetery bills being paid.
Right,
And we didn't write the checks out of the cemetery account, that's
right.
why. It's still leaving a town account, and it's gonna be
Right.
accounted for in the accounting as cross-fund activity. And then I would normally have to move money from point A to point B. We eliminate that, we simply put all our money in one pocket, we pay our bills out of one pocket, but we account for it in every single silo it needs to be in. So it streamlines cash management.
So I'm assuming this closes the Citizens Bank account?
Yes, it would.
Completely?
Yes, it would.
Then out of curiosity, with that,
Mm.
that one account that's in the red, were there
That's a-
were there penalties and fees on any?
No, no.
Okay.
No, if you notice, it's one bank account, and it's made up of three different
different-
asset accounts.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're
So
saying.
it's-
Okay,
it's-
okay.
That's why the
One
grand
covers the
illusion,
other, yeah.
Yeah,
it's one bank account, and a spreadsheet was tracking that.
gotcha.
Well, once something's tracked in a spreadsheet, it's outside of your accounting system.
Right.
We gotta stop that stuff.
Now, would closing the Citizens account though affect any other borrowing or anything? Or,
Probably not.
okay.
Probably not. I mean, typically, if someone says, you must, I mean, my experience in borrowing, I have borrowed from 3 banks in the past for equipment purchasing for 5-year notes based on interest rates alone,
Right.
and not held any money with that account. You know, they hope
They
you
still
will,
wanna lend money, yeah.
but they still wanna lend money, and they'll offer a competitive price.
And none of these are interest bearing in Citizens? Or is it just not listed? They're not interest bearing.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
No, it's only-
As you pointed
again,
out,
Not
the,
an
you know,
interest
the big one has a much higher rate at that extra 0.04%.
Yeah, I wish, if anything could be on the left side of that decimal.
That's right, every penny shows up.
Long time ago.
So again, the whole point is to simplify banking and do more accounting. And we're already doing more accounting.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you wanna weigh in?
No, I agree with Chip, because we, being in Westminster, it's, you can have it all in one account, but you have departments or silos, like Chip just said, and you can track it in there. And these reports right here, very helpful.
Yeah,
And they're simple to read,
yeah,
and you can see it.
yeah,
So he's right about consolidating, because the more money you have in your general fund, the more money you're gonna make,
Mhm.
so.
And just overall to be able to keep
Just,
track
yeah,
of all
Yeah.
streamlining.
It's- when you look at, every month you want to try to reconcile the activity in every one of these accounts,
Right,
and you're paying someone
to do that.
more money
Right.
than the interest earns that month to reconcile the statement.
Right,
Yeah,
makes no sense.
And you already gotta reconcile the big one.
something's gonna be off, something's gonna be off 4 cents and drive someone mad for, years to come trying to reconcile it.
Not today. So, yes, so that's the intent, is to try to now do what we've done in accounting, do that with banking, simplify banking.
Thing too, and so really not a whole lot of money is flowed out in and out of some of these.
Well, you used to do warrants out of cemetery by itself. You have right now, for example, the one that's labeled Equipment Sinking Fund with 83,000. I believe 15 or 16,000 of what's in that account is really reserved for town hall maintenance. But the account's name says equipment.
Right.
So in the equipment fund, that fund's name should really be changed to capital.
Right.
Right.
Because you're doing more in there than just buying equipment. And in fact, every time you buy equipment, you're borrowing the money.
Right.
So what's the other money in it for? So that's where we can begin to look at these pictures, look at reserve, dedicated, reserve, assigned, committed, and undesignated fund balances. And say, okay, we had a plan to do something with sidewalks, we had a plan to do something with town hall roof, we had a plan to do building maintenance. And even those funds, which right now are stacked horizontally, could be stacked vertically into one capital fund with a capital budget plan.
That breaks it all.
What comes in, what goes out on each project, and then you
Yeah.
look at that budget and say, we planned on doing something, there's no money spent, what are we doing? But when I gave you the first stack of financials, Scott Henry went home, got his wagon, came back, got his papers.
I did clean my truck out today.
So,
The file cabinet is getting a little full.
so that's the intent behind that one. I just wanted to be able to go to the assistant treasurer and say, the board agrees with me and this is what we want you to do.
Sounds good.
So it has been moved and seconded?
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, thank you.
Right, so,
Does the
Next.
treasurer have any ability to prevent that from happening?
The treasurer is responsible for deposits by statute.
Yeah.
Most actually attempt to work in collaboration with the select board, who is the traditionally responsible party for all financial
Right.
activity. And so if you work collaboratively, you're all working to the same goal.
Same goal, yeah.
And so in this case, by having direct instructions to consolidate banking,
The hope would be that.
the hope would be
makes
that
sense.
we
Yeah.
would get cooperation and be able to simply do it.
Mhm.
And then we have a lot less financial statements to administer and we're not, writing checks to ourselves.
Yeah.
And the town earns more money on
At
interest.
this point, yeah, almost 50% more.
Taxpayers should love that.
All right, as well, relative to the financial discussion, you're aware we are down one highway employee when we had added a sixth to have 10 hours of building maintenance weekly and whatnot. Well, we don't have that because we don't have a sixth employee. So in a discussion with Brian today, one thought is to seek out a winter highway temp plow driver, not a full-time employee, someone who is in the construction industry, seasonally, and then during the winter could come in and assist with plowing. That concept, there were a few in mind that he approached, but really couldn't get a commitment. And so if the board desires that approach in a budget year in which we have some constraints already affecting us, then we can continue that. Otherwise, shall we seek to replace our full-time position that has been left? it has been 30 days, and things are running relatively smoothly with the staff that we have. The work's getting done. It does mean that Brian is spending time in equipment, but, you know, so be it. But at this, like I said, at this stage, where we're really taking the hits in Fund 100 General Fund, not in the Highway Fund. The Highway Fund is actually in a better position because it's down one and you budgeted for that.
No, I mean, my feeling would be unless
Unless
Ryan
Ryan
is
really
itching to hire
presses.
somebody, yeah.
Support.
Yeah.
And I kind of quizzed him briefly about this. I said, how's it going? You know,
Okay.
and working with Clive. And he said, you know, it's actually, I mean, as he said, he had responding, was it last week, 2 weeks ago, about, you know, people getting to Town Farm Road. You know, and I said, hey, look, everybody's on this current project,
Right.
the ditching and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they might be ever so slightly shorthanded, but they would have been probably shorthanded for that, no matter what, if the culvert project demanded. All
Yeah,
hands.
well, still, yeah, exactly.
All hands anyway.
So, if he is still able to come up with a temp plow driver for the winter, then absolutely I would agree with that. Having that extra vehicle on the road, because we have sidewalks and sidewalk plow.
Right.
That's one of our guys.
Yeah,
So you got 4 guys out plowing.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think that if we can still pursue that, find one, and we may. Certainly, I have at times gone out in a sidewalk plow as a manager, just so that it gets
You're
done.
just itching to get on.
I
it.
just, I happen to like
You
physical
really
labor,
want to play with those machines.
and it's not playing, it's work.
You know, as the new guy, you don't get the heated one.
No, that's right. So that's where we'll go with that. And I already talked to you about the difference in the general fund versus the library fund and the transfer of money, about $1,252. So I'm somewhat biased of the mindset that the trustees transfer from their fundraising the $1,200 to get it covered, because the taxpayers didn't pass to transfer that much money.
yeah.
Had there been,
Lesson learned is to
Yeah.
make sure
Had
it's
there
clarified.
been-
in
Yeah, no, I'm
future.
surprised, and I was being facetious saying, Laura, Cynthia, you know, somewhere it got missed,
there was
it
a,
doesn't matter, it doesn't matter who or where.
Not a huge amount of money.
Right, exactly, yeah, no, if it was 12,000 or 120,000.
if it was a penny on the tax rate, we'd be seriously talking. So that's the rundown relative to, you know, financials and banking, employment, and the slight distraction in the budget.
All right,
Do have warrants.
we do have warrants. That was my next question.
2 payroll warrants, 1 accounts payable warrant. Signature pages should be on top.
So I will make a motion to approve the warrants
As presented.
as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So Karen, for your edification,
Yeah,
it is payroll warrant 15
yeah,
for $8,241.59.
okay.
Payroll warrant 16
We'll pass them. We could actually, you want to just pass them down?
for $7,322.60.
Yeah,
Accounts payable warrant 8,
mm-hmm.
115,000.
115,000, yeah,
$618.05.
$0.05. Got it.
There's 2 pages
Yeah.
before that.
Yes. No longer with kids in school, but I still got the September back to school call.
Yeah,
It
it's probably,
was like the guarantee.
probably the school board brought it in.
Jesus, I should have brought this up. But is this select board interested in offering to the employees direct deposit of their paychecks? It's been talked about, from my understanding.
Is there any downside?
Right,
None whatsoever.
and, I mean, I suppose if someone voluntarily, didn't wish to do that.
They
We
could
still
opt
issue a
out.
check.
Opt out.
But your warrants would be the same total. What that means is basically an employee doesn't pick up their check, run to the bank during working hours because the money's already there.
Right.
And for some employees who apparently carry their paychecks in their back pocket,
It won't, Karen won't be able to bring the strong box in and count the coinage out to every week.
Direct deposit was,
is the way.
yes, convenient.
And again, because of online banking access, like certainly
that much
I can make that happen.
I was gonna, frankly, isn't that almost something as management that is in effect, you can already do? Right,
Yeah.
in effect, you can do it, just,
Do we need a motion on it? No.
I-
'Cause if we do, we
I have
probably
your-
ought to warn it for our next meeting.
I have your blessing to start. Again, the same banking resistance may be all I get.
right now, when you say employees, would that include, what? Say us, the elected officials, the listers?
It can be any employee we pay through payroll, can be direct deposited, any. The issue becomes, and I use this as a real example, we have employees that are seasonal, and so they give us a bank account,
And
and they
it's
come
not
back 6 months
necessarily-
later,
right.
and they get their first paycheck, and it goes into oblivion because that account doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really no different than you signing up for someone for direct pay who reaches into your account.
Yeah.
This
Sustaining
is a
membership.
feature. We can offer as well direct debit for tax payments, direct debit for water and sewer payments, in which on the due date, we reach into bank accounts and take our payment. For some,
That's a good thing, yeah.
Right,
It's
I'm sure
very
some
good.
people would be interested, and
Yeah.
some people,
yes, some are not.
make it a
What has
stretch.
been practiced here, which is actually against the law, is someone writing you a check for November 17th and writing you a check for February 12th of 2018. And handing you a check and saying,
Right.
please cash that on that
Right,
day,
right.
okay? We have that, it exists, it is wrong.
Why?
You hand me a check, I should be able to go cash it.
But if it's post-dated,
Then it's my responsibility to handle it?
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's not.
yeah, no, I know, I know that's always been an option,
Yeah.
so.
And so the answer to that becomes, tell you what, I'll just reach into your account because I'm authorized to take the money on that day.
Right.
And that I can do electronically, but a piece of paper that's been signed, I have to track.
Right,
And if I lose it,
Keep in a file, yeah.
right.
if it gets
I think it's-
stolen,
Yeah, right, as long as
so that's just bad practice.
people choose to participate, they can.
So we may, if we get to that level of offering a direct debit for payments, we may contact those who have given us checks and ask them to sign a document for us to electronically take it that day as opposed to process a check. And then it happens one fell swoop.
I mean, do we get a lot of things like that?
Uh,
I mean, it was
Probably
just-
50% of the payments of 1,400 water sewer payers monthly. We're happy.
Yeah.
It's one fell swoop. It's just like an ACH deposit.
Mhm.
Phew, all this money comes in on that day.
Yeah.
And you had to handle it as an electronic file. Stamp the back, take it to the bank. Gone. So. All right.
All right.
All right, I think that's all there is. Any executive session? Short one, a brief one, so isn't it?
I'd make a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of personnel discussion.
Okay. 313.
All in favor?
1.
6:45 or 6:59.
Aye.
Any decision?
No.
No, that will be no.